Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. Whether you're coming in on Zoom or StreamSpot, YouTube, Facebook, you are in the right place, and we're delighted to be able to celebrate Shabbat with you and also celebrate with the Wynn family because their daughter Leah is celebrating becoming Bat Mitzvah. So we're really happy for all of you to be celebrating with us, and it sounds like some people in the chapel are happy as well. So, not going to delay it much further, just a couple of PSAs, public synagogue announcements before we get started. First off, this is a musical community. You need to know that about us. There's going to be a lot of singing tonight. You might hear some guitar in the background, and that's not just for us. We highly encourage everybody out there to sing along with us. If you know the song, if you kind of know the song, if you don't remotely know the song, tap out a rhythm, say la la la. That's okay too. It's a great way to learn. And, you know, sometimes I do my best singing when I'm on mute. So if you want to join us, please do. You'll have a better experience. And even if we can't hear you, we can feel that you're there. The other thing is, if you're on Zoom and you don't have one of these fancy-dancy prayer books, the Sidur Sim Shalom for Shabbat and festivals, they're in Zoom. If you look at the chat, there is a link to a virtual one of these. So you can follow along that way. So we're going to get started with Kabbalah Shabbat as the first part of our service tonight. And this means receiving, accepting, welcoming Shabbat as we ascend from, let's say, the mundane level, the schmutz of the week, into the holiness of Shabbat. And we do that through psalms and songs and poems, and it just helps us go to a higher level before we got some serious praying to do later. We're going to start with this traditional song of recognizing the angels that bring in Shabbat and dwell with us and bless us and then go in peace. And that's Shalom Aleichem, and that's going to be on page 13. Page 13. Please join us.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech, malachei amlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Tzechem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And even as we increase the sound in our homes, we also increase the light in our lives. And we do that by lighting candles at the beginning of Shabbat. And we're going to go to the chapel where I believe Rose Ingber and Cameron Kiefer are going to be lighting the candles for us tonight. Maybe we can move the microphone a little bit closer to them so we can hear them say the blessings. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Very well done. And now if we can ask a parent to move the microphone back, because I want to make sure we hear everything that Leah has to say tonight as well. So we are going to continue. I said earlier, we use psalms and poems and songs as kind of rungs on a ladder to ascend toward the holiness of Shabbat. The first rung on that ladder is a psalm called Lechu Neranena, which is on page 15. Page 15.
Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, Naria, Naria letzur ishaynu, nekad mafanav v'toda, Naria, Naria letzur ishaynu, v'zmirot Naria lo, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena, Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, כי על גדול אדוני ומלך על כל אלוהים. ארבעים שנה אקוד ודור ואומר עם טועה לבבם והם לא ידעו דרכי אשר נשבעתי והפי אם יבואון אל מנוחתי.
Page 16, 16.
שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני, כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני, ברכו שמו, מסרו מיום ליום, ישועתו ספרו בגויים, כבודו בכל העמים, נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני.
We go now to page 22. Page 22. The pinnacle of our Kabbalah Shabbat service is this song called Lacha Dodi, which means "Come, my beloved." And I've heard two different translations of this, if you will. On the one hand, we could be speaking to Shabbat as an honored guest, Shabbat as a beloved friend, welcome back into our lives after a tough week, let's say, and we're glad to have you here. I also recently heard someone describe this as Lecha Dodi, come my beloved, not to Shabbat, but to the other people in your life, saying, hey, Shabbat's coming. Let's be together for this. So we're going to start sort of in the middle of Lecha Dodi at the top of page 22. Page 22.
ימין ושמאל תפרוצי את אדוני תריצי על ידי שמן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת מעלה גם בשמחה ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת לקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה try that again one more time together. לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת לקבלה. לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה.
If you'll join us on page 23, we have a special psalm. This is a composition of our poet King David on page 23 that is a psalm just for Shabbat. And it's going to be led in the chapel. Let's go to the chapel. The psalm for Shabbat is going to be led by Sabrina Kiefer.
It is good to acclaim Adonai, to sing your praise, exalted God, to affirm your love each morning and your faithfulness each night, to the music of the lute and the melody of the harp. Your works, Adonai, make me glad. I sing with joy of your creation. How vast your works, Adonai, your designs are beyond our grasp. The thoughtlessness cannot comprehend, the foolishness cannot fathom this. The wicked may flourish, springing up like grass, but their doom is sealed, for you are supreme forever. Your enemies, Adonai, your enemies shall perish, all the wicked shall crumble. But me you have greatly exalted. I am anointed with fragrant oil. I have seen the downfall of my foes. I have heard the despair of my attackers. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall grow tall like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they will thrive in the court of our God. They shall bear fruit even in old age. They shall be ever fresh and fragrant, to proclaim Adonai is just my rock, in whom there is no flaw.
Yasher Koach, well done. And if you could, it's probably no surprise at this point that we've got a song for that too. And so if you stay on page 23 on the facing page, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, please join us.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, עלי עצור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידך, במעשה ידך ארנן. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, ויודעם כמוך שמותיך. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, ויודעם כמוך שמותיך. יא אליי, יא אליי, יא אליי, יא אליי, יא אליי, מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. If you're just joining us, welcome to Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. We're delighted you're here to celebrate Shabbat and also celebrate with the Wynn family on this wonderful occasion for celebrating Leah becoming Bat Mitzvah. And so that means that she is going to give a Devar Torah tomorrow. Not tonight. She's going to do it tomorrow. And so I just wanted to see her sweat for a second. So I am going to tell you that her Devar Torah, I did get to take a peek at it ahead of time. It is fantastic. You should be here tomorrow at 9:30 for our service to hear her take on this week's Parsha, which is Parashat Shlach Lecha. And the motivating story of Shlach Lecha, send for yourselves, is sending scouts in to look at the Promised Land. And how does that go for us, and what the consequences are of how that goes for us. And again, I highly encourage you to hear how Leah reacts to this story and how personally meaningful it is for her in her life. I'm going to talk about the same story, kind of. There's something else in it that's very personal for me, and I'm going to talk actually about, let's say, the epilogue to that story. But first, I want to tell a funny story about two rabbis celebrating Purim. I know it's months from now, but the story's worth it, and it is related to our Torah portion, trust me. So there's two rabbis, and this is recounted in the Talmud. These two rabbis are celebrating Purim. And they celebrate Purim, and this is a family service. They celebrate Purim in the traditional fashion, which means they're getting very excited. And maybe they're losing some of their wits because they're in such a celebratory mood. And these two friends haven't seen each other in a while. They're catching up, and one of them says to the other, by the way, I got a new knife. You want to see it? Always a great idea when people are celebrating. And so he takes out his knife, and they're doing mumbly peg, and they're doing things, whatever rabbis did in the early classical period when they're celebrating with knives. And something bad happens. And the rabbi who's the guest at this party dies. And nobody notices at first. It's that joyous a party. But when the host wakes up the next morning and sees that his friend has expired and sees the knife in his hand and realizes what has happened, he is just overwhelmed with grief and crestfallen. He gets down, just completely prostrates himself on the ground, says, Rabbeinu Shalom, please bring my friend back to life. And Rabbeinu Shalom, our Holy One God, brings him back to life. It's very exciting. It's a miracle. And it's always good to talk about miracles on holidays like Purim. And so he miraculously comes back to life. It's a little bit awkward there for a second, then he goes home. And it's fine, they're good, until the next Purim. And once again, the rabbi who had him over the previous year calls him up and says, probably sent a pigeon or something back then, calls him up and says, hey, I'm having a Purim party, would you like to come? And the other one says, thank you for thinking of me, but one cannot depend on miracles. And so that's my favorite Purim story, and it illustrates an important principle in Jewish legal thinking. And it relates to the Parsha, I promise. When the rabbis are trying to help us figure out what's the right thing to do and what's the wrong thing to do, They come up with some very important legal categories. One is lechatchila, which means a priori, or before the fact, translating from into Latin and then English. And the other is b'diavad, ex post facto, after the fact. And they say, look, Judaism is fault tolerant. As I've said before, one of the things that I love about the Torah the most is its endorsement of second chances, the possibility of tshuva. We're not perfect. We are perfectible. But it says don't go looking for miracles. It's okay to make a mistake. B'diavad, ex post facto. You can make up for those mistakes. You can learn from that experience. You get, God willing, a second chance. L'chatchila, before the fact, don't tempt fate. Don't be so bold in thinking that you can do whatever you want, because you can always say you're sorry later. Doesn't mean don't take risks. Right? It doesn't mean don't go out of your comfort zone. It just means don't expect to be saved by miracles when you're doing something you know is probably not okay. In this week's Torah portion in Shlach Lecha, we talk every year about this story of the scouts that go and scout out the land. And again, I'm not going to promise, Leah, I'm not going to spoil this for you because I love your interpretation of this. But I'll just give some background. Scouts are sent into the land, the promised land, that we've been working so hard to get to for a couple of years at this point from leaving Egypt. And they come back and they take a vote. And of the 12 scouts that go, 10 say, this isn't for us, right? It's everything God said, flowing with milk and honey. The fruit there is gigantic. But you know who eats gigantic fruit? Gigantic people. And you know where there are no gigantic people? Right here on this side of the river. So thanks for the trip. It's been fun. We're going to park it right here. There were a couple of spies who had different opinions. And they said, look, we're scared too. Let's go. But they took a vote. And a vote's a vote, and it says in the Torah, incline after the majority. And God says, okay, if you think you can't do it, guess what? You're right. And so everybody here who is an adult, everybody who was an adult when they left Egypt and is inclined after this fearful majority, is not allowed to go to the promised land. In fact, I'd like you to keep walking, and you will keep traversing the wilderness until everyone who was 20 and up when you left Egypt has passed from the earth. Your kids can go, and any kids you have along the way. Sometimes a generation has to pass in the wilderness before their kids get to see the promised land. Here's the clincher. Here's the one that we always gloss over this part, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. As soon as they figured out how badly they'd messed up, they say, you know what, never mind. Tell you what, we're going to get up early tomorrow. We're going to go over the promised land. Giants or no giants, we're going to conquer it. And Moses is like, I wouldn't. You already heard what God had to say. Let's just take the punishment we've already gotten and not mess this up further. And they say, hey, this is the Torah. Don't we get second chances? Not always. Not if you are careless with your first. And so when the people get up early the next morning and they try to enter the promised land, they are routed. And then they know that God's serious. Sometimes it takes another generation before you get another chance. And there's a few ways in which I think this is just as powerful a lesson for the 8 billion, I think, people on earth as it was for the 12 scouts. We have one earth that we are charged from Bereshit, from the beginning, to be stewards of. And we're losing it. There's a wonderful science fiction novel out there now called Ministry for the Future, and the instigating incident. It talks about the near future possibility of the consequences of climate change, and it starts with this scenario where what's called a wet bulb heat wave. That is a heat wave where the humidity is so dense that human beings sweating can't cool themselves down. And in this particular instance, in a heat wave in India in 2 weeks, 20 million people die. Now, science fiction, you say, this is debatable. This is a matter of opinion. Except that those heat waves are happening now, not on that scale. If we're not at the tipping point, we are tiptoeing toward it. And that kind of tip into chaos, it may be a while before we get a second chance from that. In our own city, in our own community, we are at a threshold. And I know I talk about this a lot, and I talked about it last week, I'm going to talk about it this week, just for a second. We are at a threshold where pretty soon we can start getting back together again. And that is going to feel pretty good. And we need to be careful. There will be restrictions in place in our community that you may not experience when you go to a restaurant, or you may not take advantage of when you get together with your friends. And these folks are your friends, but there will need to be some caution for a little while until there's not. What this Torah portion teaches, I think, is a little bit, on the one hand, it's an antidote. I'm going to say some bitter medicine. I love that the Torah gives us so many second chances. I love that God gives us so many second chances. I love that God teaches us to give each other second chances. But when our planet is at stake, when our community is at stake, when life is at stake, we can learn from Shalach Lecha, let's do our best to get it right the first time. Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us here at PJTC. We're now going to move into our evening prayer service of Mariv that starts with our call to prayer, the Baruch Hu, and let's see, that is going to be led by Leah Wynn in the chapel. Fantastic. So we rise and we face the ark for the Baruch Hu on page 28.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Leah, as you turn around, you continue in the middle of the paragraph, close to the mic.
Uvma avir yom, umei v'layla, uvmabdil bein yom ubein layla. Adonai Tzevaot Shamo, Elcha Bekayam, Tamid Yimloch, Aleinu Leolam Va'ed, Baruch Ata Adonai,
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
Ama'ari Baravim.
Amen.
You may be seated as we continue on page 29. We bless God for God's light. Now we bless God for the constancy of God's love. Ahavat Olam on page 29.
Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael
אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה, נהגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך לתסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Go to the chapel for Leah to lead us in the Shema on page 30.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha Bechol levavcha Uchol nafshecha Uchol me'odecha Ve'hayu hadbarim ha'ele Asher anochi metzavecha Hayom alevavecha Veshinantam lebanecha V'dibarta bam V'shibtecha V'beitecha Uv'leftecha V'derech Uv'shovecha Uv'kumecha Uv'shartom la'ot al yadecha V'hayu letotofot b'neinecha Uv'tav al mezuzot beitecha Uv'isharecha.
Well done. We continue at your own pace in the middle of page 30. We'll get back together in just a moment. We join together at the top of page 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, Daber el bnei Israel, v'amarta lehem, v'asu lehem tzitzit, al kanfei vigdehem ledorotam, v'natnu al tzitzit hakanaf patil techelet, v'haya lachem letzitzit, uritem oto, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריכם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני
אדוני אלוהיכם,
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We continue at the top of page 32. Page 32, we bless God for God's light and God's constant love. We now bless God for God's nature as a redeemer, answering us when we call. And we quote this great moment of redemption, the song at the sea, where they say, "Who's like you, God, among all who are worshipped? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai."
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלינו תהילות אוסף נורא תהילות אוסף מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר היום לפני משה ומרים זה לי אנו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונברך יפעל אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
גאל ישראל.
Amen. We continue on page 33 with Chashkivenu, and it will be led by Lawrence Ingber in the chapel.
Help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us your shelter of peace. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence, from starvation, sword, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, O God, who watches over us and delivers us, our gracious and merciful ruler. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace, now and always. Spread us over us the shelter of your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who spreads the shelter of peace over us, over all his people, Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Amen. Yasher koach, well done. If you'll join us on the facing page as we sing Hashkivenu.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wing, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
We continue at the top of page 34, page 34.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם אוי 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 ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
In the middle of page 34, we'll go to the chapel for Leah to lead us in the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitgadol v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah
Amen.
Ve'yoma dibra kirutei Ve'amich malchutei
בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמר אמן יהי שמי רבה
מבורך
לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה יתברך
Yitbarach v'yishbarach v'yitba'ar
נתרומם
v'yinaseh v'yitador v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dekudshah
בריחו
Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata
תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן ועלמה
ve'himru
אמן.
It's now time that we rise and face the ark for the Amidah for Shabbat evening. That can be found on page 35b. Page 35b. This is a time for quiet or private prayer. And so take a few moments. You can lean on the words of our tradition. They are strong. They will support you. It's also a time to share whatever prayers are in your heart at this moment. So we face the ark for the Amidah. And then when you're finished with your own private prayer, you may be seated, and we'll get back together in just a couple of minutes.
הוא לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי אמן עושה שלום שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל אמן אמן עושה שלום שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן ועל כל ישראל
We conclude this prayer with the Kaddish Shalem on page 48. Page 48, whenever you're ready, Leah.
Yikadol b'yikadash shemei rabba.
Amen.
Ve'omad divra kirute, ve'amlik malchute, ve'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'chaye techol beit Yisrael, va'galo bizman kari v'himaru.
Amen. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולמי עולמיה יתברך
V'barach v'yishtabach v'pa'ar v'roman v'naseh v'tadar v'taleh v'talal shemei dekudshah
בריחו
le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamid ran bilma v'himaru
אמן
o
תתקבל
titkabal slow tone uba utone te'achol Yisrael kadam avuhon didis maya v'himaru
אמן
Say shalom bimroma. Oh yeah, say shalom. Aleinu be'akol Yisrael. Be'akol Yoshvei Tebel v'himaru.
Amen.
We're about to begin to end our service. We've got some more things to do, but this is the beginning of the end. And hopefully for your Jewish education, Leah, this is the end of the beginning. So we're going to do that. We're going to open the ark for Aleinu. Very important. We have some people who have the honor of, if not physically present, are spiritually present, and hopefully Zoomily present, to open our ark openers. You say they're here, or they're on the Zoom there? Let's see. Joseph and Veronica Kedushim.
They should be in Zoom.
Do we see Joseph and Veronica? And just so you know, even if they're not in the chapel, they have an able agent in Erica Ingber, Leah's mom, will be their agent in opening the ark. The honor belongs to them, but let's go ahead. Let's see. We'll see them a little bit later. So if you will all please rise as Erica opens the ark.
Are we done?
I don't know. It won't work.
I can hear that they're here in spirit. We are going to rise and face the ark as we see the Aleinu on page 51. Page 51. Let's go to the chapel.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמי. על כן נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו לראות פניו תפארתו. כי המלכות שלך היא וללמד תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב את תורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר והי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
We remain standing as Erica closes the ark on behalf of Joseph and Veronica. Well done. The ark is closed. You may all be seated. This is a time where even as we gather in joy, we feel the absence of those who are no longer with us. This week here at PJTC, we are marking the yard site, and that is the anniversary of the passing of Abraham Frankel, Adele Halper, Albert Harris, Alan Tornick, Daniel Ivler, David Myron, Francis Ann Eckstein, Frank Lash, Harold Lindstone, Harry Ruskin, Helen Gorfinkel, Hilda Grable, Hugo Hanauer, Irene Hensker, James Dinnerman, Jeanette Emmerich, Julius Lokitz, Kate Rosenblum, Mary Rombach, Mary Wolbeck, Maurice Reichler, Morris Bass, Paula Foreman Schiffman, Philip Applebaum, Rachel Demerit, Sarah Cohen, and Thelma Lassman. If you are in mourning for anyone, or if you are marking a yard site this week, I ask that you please rise and join us for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish on page 52. Page 52. Let's pray together. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ba'alma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mivorach le'olam u'lamei almayim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. And we move from kavod to simcha, from honor to celebration, and we have a few gifts, I believe, for our good friend Leah. We've got several presentations. Is this really happening? Do we have that here?
Yes.
Does she have it there, or do I have it here?
No.
Okay, she has it there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, there's something new and exciting is going on. So there's several gifts. One is that we're doing it tonight. We usually do this at the Minyan. If you can look at that goodie bag there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see a black book in there.
Actually, the goodie bag is for tomorrow. Everything is out is for today.
Oh, okay, excellent. So you see that book there. It's not pocket size, but it is travel size. You might be able to put that in.
Unless she has a big pocket.
Right, you might be able to put it, maybe if you're a kangaroo, that's pocket size. But you can definitely take it with you wherever you go. And this is something we usually do at the Minyan before this ceremony, but it was still at the engravers, I believe. And so we wanted to present it to you tonight. We have this wonderful tradition here where, let's say when we were all able to get together in the chapel, every Minyan before a bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah, our good friend Judy Ellis would present this Tanakh to our Erev bat mitzvah, somebody coming up on it. And so this is a Tanakh. This is the entirety of the canonized scriptures of your people, all of it. It's the same words in there as are in the Torah scrolls behind you, and then some. What's different about this one is that that's your very own. If you look on the inside, we have taken your Torah portion and marked it out for you. And so as you take that in your travels throughout your life...
First page you can see.
It's Hebrew, so it goes backwards. So as you take that with you throughout your life, wherever you go, whether it's in your office as a doctor, whether it's hanging in the Oval Office where you work, or on the International Space Station maybe, you could take that anywhere, but when you open it, you will remember the honor that you've given us of celebrating the beginning of your Jewish education here at PJTC, and you could always go back to an excellent spy story. So that's your first presentation this evening. There's another presentation coming up in just a second. Of course. And then we have the USY and the Sisterhood and the Men's Club each have something to share with you, starting with Sam Svanken of our United Synagogue Youth Group.
Atlanta. My name is Sam, and I'm here on behalf of the USY board. You did amazing tonight. USY helped me stay connected to Judaism after my bar mitzvah, as well as stay friends with people I've known for over 10 years. I hope that I can give you that same amazing experience by presenting you with this. It's a B'chol Echad, which is a songbook we use for Sloach and Ruach at USY events. I hope I can see you at Junior USY Kinus in the near future, or maybe you can even join us in person tomorrow night back at PJTC for our first outdoor movie night in a long time. You did amazing tonight, and I know you'll do amazing tomorrow. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Yasher Koach, thank you, Sam. We now go to Nancy Carlton, who has a presentation on behalf of the PJTC Sisterhood.
I'm trying to unmute myself. So Leah, I'm here with your teacher, Sandra Dreschner, and we've been participating with you all evening. I'm extremely honored, as is Sandra, to share this very special occasion with you and your family. It is also my pleasure to present you with a gift, which you have right there next to you, on behalf of the Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center Sisterhood. I trust this Kiddush cup will be a reminder of your accomplishments and heritage. Mazel tov. Do you want to say mazel tov?
Mazel tov, Leah.
Thank you.
It's like we had a celebrity cameo this evening. That was wonderful. So now we're going to go to our good friend Eric Schlecht, who has a presentation on behalf of the PJTC Men's Club. Who will be played this evening by Ira Blitz.
Hi, Leah. It was a pleasure to hear you today. I congratulate you on behalf of Men's Club. I know you have many interests. I learned that you love drawing and like snakes. I could see a future for you as an animal illustrator helping to save endangered species. I was also happy to hear about your volunteering to read to elementary school students. I know that your family is very proud of you. Well, as you know, I am here representing Men's Club today, whose mission it is to support the youth programs in our community, including B'nai Simcha, the Louis B. Silver Religious School, USY, the Federation Youth Orchestra, and camping scholarships. Tonight, I have the honor and privilege of presenting you with a beautiful yad on behalf of Men's Club. The yad protects the Torah and adds to the spirituality of its reading. And tomorrow you will have the mitzvah of using this yad while reading the Torah. Congratulations again on behalf of Men's Club.
Thank you so much.
Yashkoach, Ira, and now it is a bittersweet moment because the service is almost over.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, we're going to end the service like we began it, and that is in joyful songs. So we encourage you to sing along with us, and it feels better when you stand up while you're singing. So let's rise and close this together.
עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. שלום עלינו ועל כל העולם, שלום, שלום. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Shalom, shalom, salam, aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Stick around for Kiddush, would you please? We're going to roll some announcements here so you can see all the great stuff that's going on here at PJTC. If you're curious about any of this stuff and you need a Zoom link to it for the time being, please check us out in the office during the week or read all those wonderful emails that we send you, and you'll find out everything about it. So why don't you go grab a cup of wine or juice or schnapps or whatever it is, Big Red, whatever it is you celebrate with, and meet us right back here for Kiddush. I said meet us back here, but let's meet the family in the chapel, shall we?
Sure. Let's see, who do we have there? Wonderful, three of you guys. So.
And Leah has the big cup tonight.
Yes, she does. Good. Let's make sure that the mom and dad have little cups. Do we have little cups there? Excellent. Let's join together.
Wait, we're
waiting for someone.
Would you like a note from the rabbi to tell them to get up there?
She's coming, one second.
Okay, we can wait.
We can totally wait.
Excellent. Anybody else? The more the merrier. It's a small bima, but it's a beautiful family.
Are we ready, guys?
Wait, almost.
One more. Woo! Drum roll. Dum, 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 dum,
the more the merrier. There we go.
Woo! Scooch in. Let's join together. ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. We lift up our cups together. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית, כי הוא יום תפילה למקראי קודש, זכר לציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל עמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. לחיים. It's Jews.
It'll be wine someday. So if it's your custom to wash your hands before Motzi, now's a good time to do it. And if you prefer, I'll be thinking about you while I do Netilat Yadayim here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen. And last but definitely not least, I see that you guys have a challah right there. May you please uncover it, hold it together, and lift it up. And let's join together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, המוציא לחם מן הארץ בטעם. Shabbat shalom. Take a little piece.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbos,
if you've
everyone.
joined us on the live stream, thank you so much for being here. Make sure you tune in tomorrow at 9:30 and stick around for the service and hear all the wonderful prayers that Leah's going to lead us in, all the reading she's going to do, and the important Torah she has to teach about this week's Torah portion. Thank you for joining us on